Thanks for tuning in for part 2 of our Kirstie Ennis sit-down interview. This one is going to be hard to watch at times, but everything from the helicopter crash to the recovery to what that perseverance has allowed her to become today. The lows made her who she is, and you'll want to hear this. First off, you joined the military at 17, which to me, to have the wherewithal to make that decision at 17 is you're either more mature or more convicted than somebody else, or you just want out of your fucking house. Which one was it? Was it a combination? And what drove that?
It was a combination for sure. So I will be transparent on all of this. I was a terrible child, just mischievous, a total asshole to my parents. But I was raised by 2 Marines. My mom and dad got married at 18. Dad joined the Marine Corps right off the bat. I came along a few years down the road. And actually at 27 years old, my mom came home and told my dad, I think these female Marines are pretty badass. And Dad looked at my mom and said, I will never be married to a female Marine. So my mom said, watch this, turned around, left, got an age waiver, and joined the Marine Corps.
Your family is the ultimate one-up family. Yeah. It's just oh, I can't do that, fuck you, I'm going to do it. That's insane.
Pretty much. And so my earliest memory is watching my mom graduate boot camp.
Yeah.
And I just idolized him for it. I thought it was just the coolest thing that, my parents were the superheroes that got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go essentially protect people that couldn't protect themselves. And so I knew early on that I wanted to, to follow in their footsteps, so to speak. And I just joined a lot sooner than I was anticipating.
Mm-hmm.
I was done with high school by 15, did 2 years of college, and 4 months after my 17th birthday, I just kept getting into trouble.
Yeah.
And so at the time, I just put the pieces together. It's you want to join the Marines, so time to go now.
What's getting grounded like in your house with 2, because most people have to deal with 1 Marine parent or somebody with a military background. That's bad enough. My dad played 13 years in the NFL, big imposing guy. He's got a flat top. He looks like he could be in the military. And it sucks. What was getting disciplined in your house like?
So, don't get me wrong, I did get grounded, the typical, you're going to get your phone or your TV or whatever taken away, but my mom was good. If I snuck out and came home and she could tell I was hungover, she just wouldn't let me sleep, and she'd make me do the worst things,
which is good for your hangover.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of backwards because by noon you feel better. I'm
Thanks, Mom.
I've been raking leaves.
Yeah.
I sweated.
Yeah. No, she just she put me through hell, every little thing, and it was just always obscure things, or if she knew I was drunk when I came home, she'd make me drink more. I'm that's the last thing I want to do.
Yeah.
That's rude.
Let's take the carton of cigarettes.
Yeah.
We're gonna smoke this whole carton.
Yeah.
I didn't get caught a lot. When I did, I was once grounded for 6 months.
Yeah.
But I got out on parole. It's tough when you got hard ass parents, and I feel like it makes you better. One day when you have kids, are you gonna be the hard ass parent, or are you gonna be the chill parent? Because you seem pretty chill, but you have that background where you could be a badass.
Yeah. Oh no. I go 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah.
So I like to think if I ever had kids, I'm definitely going to be hard on them.
I would call child services on your ass. I would blow
Noted.
up your spot. Yeah.
Noted.
Did you miss anything? Joining that early? You went to college early, but do you feel like you missed out on things like spring break or prom or?
Yeah. I mean. So even in relation to whether it's the NFL or NBA, NHL, it's hard for me to fathom that some of these kids are doing college and going straight into being a pro athlete. I can't fathom that, because when I was 21, 22, sitting in Afghanistan,
Right.
I've done a lot with a bunch of the different sports teams at this point, and I cannot put myself in their shoes.
Right.
2 totally different walks of life. And I do, I don't regret anything about my military service or how I went about it, the things that I did, accomplished, failed at even. But I do, sometimes I wonder, what it would have been if, if I said, all right, well, let's finish the last 2 years of college and then go in as an officer or something like that.
Yeah.
But
well,
no.
You can't recreate Beach Week in Afghanistan.
No.
That would suck.
Yeah.
There's no water, is there?
No. Absolutely not.
Fast forwarding to, what's kind of, to me, made you so impressive is the obstacle you had to overcome when 2012, the crash. You know, take me through what happened and what do you remember about it?
Yeah, so just my deployments, single, not married, loved going overseas. I was doing back-to-back deployments. So I was only home for like 4 months in between going to Afghanistan, coming home, and then going back in 2012. Mm-hmm. That deployment was night and day compared to my first one. The things that I was doing as a helicopter door gunner was a little more intense. My missions were far more hands-on than they were my first time going over there. And June 23rd, 2012, it was any other day and any other mission, really. It's weird to talk about because I knew something bad was going to happen that day. Like right. you feel it. And on January 19th, we had a helicopter go down that actually killed all 6 crew members. And their call sign that night was Iron Tail 06. In their memory, in their honor, we painted a helicopter that said, we will never forget Iron Tail 06 on the nose landing gear door. All the 50 cals were painted for them. Everybody's names was just everywhere, all over this bird. And it was our memorial helicopter. And so on June 23rd, I obviously on the flight schedule, and then my chief warrant officer comes up and he says, hey, you're going out, like go ahead and start turning up the bird. Well, I go to run out to my aircraft, which was 01, and he snatches me up and says, no, you're going out on 06. And it was just this weird pitting feeling. It just wasn't right. We turned up the birds in the middle of the day, which is pretty rare. Normally like to fly, obviously, late at night, early morning hours, so the enemy can't see you, and at least track you or figure out what you have going on. And then they come to me and they tell me that my call sign's Legacy 07. And again, treated it like any other day, gun run. We go out and do our first little segment of the mission, come back to the fuel pits, fuel up, and then we go outbound to a forward operating base called Nowzad. And from there, we were meant to be going to another base called Musakala, which we were going to do an extraction of some Marines that needed some help. And we made it right outside of, there's an AMP post and then the FOB that we were trying to get to. And unfortunately, we just never landed safely. The last thing I remember is the pilot coming over comms and saying, we're making inputs on the aircraft and we're not getting the desired outputs. And the nose of the aircraft's ready to go down. And my tail gunner called for power, which basically means pull the fucking stick up. He said he wasn't getting the outputs, and then next thing you know, we lost what we call a hover bubble. So we went so far nose up that we rolled left, and I was on left gun. So the things that I remember, obviously being on my MVGs, I remember seeing, different little flares. But the last thing I remember is like watching the ground come towards me, and people ask me all the time, like, "Oh, did you pray? Like, what happened?"
Probably don't have time, do you?
You do though. You do and you don't. But like, I don't know if it was a defense mechanism or what it was, but I just counted like I normally would if the helicopter were landing safely. So normally it would be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 mains on deck, so that the pilots knew where we were in relation to the ground. And that's all I did. And the last thing I remember is smashed into the ground, and I woke up and came to just because everybody, of course, is screaming and trying to figure out who's where. And I didn't feel anything. I could feel I lost the entirety of, I could fit my fist through this side of my face. So I lost the entirety of my jaw, my teeth. And I couldn't breathe out of my nose. Like, it was just, everything was a struggle, and I was just trying to make sense of everything.
Did you have a first thought? Were you like, man, am I fucked up? Like, or is it,
No.
What hurts? Or
So they started, they couldn't get a response from my tail gunner, and my tail gunner was like my idol.
Yeah.
He was a gunnery sergeant. I was just a corporal at the time, and this dude, like, he was just everything that I wanted, to be as a Marine. And I don't know why I did it, but he came off of his gunner's belt. Some say it's so that he could get to one of the empty seats, but he ended up going out the back of the helicopter, and he hit the river rocks before our helicopter even hit the river rocks. So they were trying to call for him and get a reaction from him, and the moment I realized that he wasn't responding, I just started screaming.
Right.
And that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
Like, I knew my leg was destroyed, and I knew my arms were messed up, and I knew there was obviously something wrong from here up, but I just wanted to know where he was. But conveniently, we were carrying 3 space available Army medics. Basically, they were just there to get a quick ride over to where we were headed to. So, I mean, they were quick. They got out of their seats. Obviously, we called for security and reinforcements. So we called up to 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. They came out from the FOB that we were supposed to be going to. Came out in the MRAPs, helped us strip the casualties, strip all the weapons, and they threw me into another helicopter and alongside my tail gunner, and we flew out.
Where do you go?
We went from Nowzad straight to Camp Bastion, which is a British air base out in Afghanistan, and I was there very briefly. I had 2 doctors pass me up. They looked at me and said, "There's not a chance," and they kept walking.
Not a chance you're going to make it.
Yeah. They decided that my head trauma, they just didn't think that.
Did they explain to you what happened up here, with your brain movement? Were they able to give you some prognosis on that, like, relatively quickly, or was there downtime?
No, it was more like, so I'm actually good friends with one of them now. And it took a lot for him to walk up to me and say, "I'm sorry," basically. But he just looked at me and was like, "Okay, I have these other people here. I can treat a blown up leg. I can cauterize that and clean it up, but I can't treat what she has going on." And I had fractures in my C2, C3, and C4, so they couldn't turn my head to do a bunch of stuff with. And these are makeshift hospitals, they're tents in the middle of Afghanistan. But I got really lucky. There was a British plastic surgeon that was actually volunteering her time out there.
Wow.
And she then came up and looked at everybody and was like, "You know what? You can sew up everything else, but don't touch her face." I'm fixing that.
Yeah. She did a nice job.
Thank you. I mean, if a corpsman did it would definitely be
If a corpsman, as much as you love corpsmen, it's just that's just not, it's not their thing.
No.
Was there a moment when they're passing you up that you're like, "Am I going to die? I mean, is this it?" Or?
Well, I honestly thought I was going to die because, going through my head and the whole helicopter ride back over, I just thought, I'm not dying without seeing my little sister. The moment I say goodbye to her, I'm out. I'm fine. It's okay. But then when I got,
at peace.
I was okay with it. There was never a moment of crying or fear or anything like that. It was, I just want to say bye. If this is how this is going to end, I want to say bye to my sister.
Is that how you thought it would go? I mean, because I'm sure when you enlist and when you're out doing this dangerous shit, you're like, "Am I ready for death?"
Yeah, but it's weird. I mean, it's that obviously, I had a will. I flew with a cross and a picture of my family in my pocket every single day. I would not go out without it. But in my mind, if I had them with me, things would be okay. But I think in the moment when you're in the middle of popping off a 50 caliber machine gun and things are hitting the fan, you don't really think about it. You're running off adrenaline and you're doing what you need to do. And so in the moments where maybe you should have those, those thoughts and those fears, it's never even comes to mind.
You got too much Mountain Dew.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. 38 surgeries. I mean, football players, we complain about a couple of them. At least we get the hospital socks. I hope you've collected hospital socks. I love hospital socks.
I have ample now with one foot.
So with all the surgeries, I mean, there's got to be a lot of low points, but we've talked about this before, the psychology of when somebody walks in the room and tells you you're losing a limb. It's got to be a heavy, you're just no fucking way. I'm sure you knew it pretty quickly, but when they tell you in a semi-sober state, because you couldn't take pain meds, right? Because of the head trauma. You're dealing with pain, you're probably, I don't know where you are mentally, but they come in and they ask you, they tell you you're going to lose your leg. What's that like?
Well, I think for me, it was very, I don't know if superficial is the right word, but as a young woman, I have a hole in my face, my back's broken, my leg's destroyed. At 21 years old, I'm not worried about, am I going to be able to walk again? I'm worried about, can I wear a dress again? Am I going to be able to wear heels? Who's going to look at me differently? Can I be a parent if I want to be? Those were the things that scared me the most. I didn't even, the physical side of things didn't even cross my mind initially. But then, of course, obviously this evolution happens whether you're ready for it or not.
Yeah.
And the physical side is being a freaking toddler all over again.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to balance. When I stood for the first time, it was just total waterworks because I didn't know what I was doing. It's not like you pop this leg back on and you just go. There was so much thought that has to go into all of it. You retrain your entire body.
And you're retraining your nervous system probably, and your proprioception, or all these terms that I loosely know from stupid fucking rehab. But you're going through a real rehab process, and coupled with probably the psychological stuff that you're afraid of. And I guess, now, like I've got a teammate who lost a leg in a car accident, Isaiah P., and we talked about him. I mean, there was a guy, a practice squad guy for the Dolphins a week ago, that he was in a bad rollover accident. They amputated his arm on the scene. And you're somebody who's, a fighter and somebody who's an athlete, and you've got all this stuff ahead of you. What advice would you give to somebody, whether it's an athlete or just somebody regular, when they're getting that diagnosis that their life's going to change forever?
The thing that I have lived by, and it took me a long time to figure this out, was it's the 6 inches between your ears and what's behind your rib cage that dictate what you're capable of. And the moment that I put my head and my heart in the right place, it was totally fine. I was able to own, the things that maybe I was insecure about, or I was able to own the things that were challenging for me. But until you get this and this in the right place, it's not going to happen for you. And so that's really what it comes down to. The invisible side of things can overcome any of the visible stuff.
I mean, I get fucking negative over the smallest, stupidest things, and you're losing a limb.
Yeah.
How do you, is there a process to that?
I have always said that the right actions follow the right perspectives. And the moment you can figure out how to shift your perspective just a little bit, again, everything will come so easy for you. The moment I realized that I came home, and there's a lot of other people that never did and never will, the light bulb went off. If I can't live this life and be happy and grateful for the life that I have, then I need to do it for the people upstairs that never came home.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it's as cheesy as it sounds. I could be really pissed off that I'm missing one leg, or I can look at all of the things that I've gained because of it. Sure, I've lost the leg, I've lost my military career, hell, I lost a lot of my memory. I've lost a lot. Or I can say, because I've lost these things, I've gained, and all of the opportunities, the people, just the experiences. It's worth it.
That's a tough one to follow. Pretty harrowing tale. Part 3 is going to be all about how she turned those lows into highs, and she's done it beautifully.